Is Donald Trump no longer lockstep with his base? If you need proof that his call and response relationship of those 2016 rallies isn't what it once was, take a look at this.
And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how.
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. But it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine.
Traditional political wisdom is to play up your accomplishments, and the vaccines certainly are that for Trump. So the advice he's getting directly from people like Bill O'Reilly makes perfect sense to me.
I told him that today. He called me. And I said, this is good for you. This is good that people see another side of you, not a political side. You told the truth. You believe in the vax. Your administration did it. And you should take credit for it because it did save, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of lives.
But just this week, O'Reilly saw firsthand that some Trump loyalists don't like hearing that he got the booster.
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. That's all right. There's a very tiny group over there.
Scott Jennings joins me now to dissect. What's going on here, Scott?
Well, I think President Trump, first of all, should be credited for saying the right thing. And I think to be fair to him, he has said this throughout the year, not as forcefully as he had in the past week, but in February, everybody get your shot. March, I would recommend it. April, the vaccine is a great thing. July, I recommend you take it. August, once you get the vaccine, you get better. So throughout the year, since he left office, he has said the right thing on the vaccine. What's true this week, I think, Michael, is that it's been far more forceful, and it's been done in the face of some booing, and it was done in an interview in which the interviewer, Candace Owens, was about to unfurl a massive conspiracy theory and misinformation about the vaccine, and he interrupted her, and he stopped her, and he corrected her, and he forcefully made the case for the vaccine. That's what's different, is the forceful nature of it, and I think, frankly, it's because he sees advantage in this. He thinks Joe Biden is failing. He thinks he's flailing. He thinks there's room to run politically, and he is taking advantage of it.
I don't question the legitimacy of your citations. I just wish he had been doing this all along. And politically speaking, I've always thought it was the stronger play. That base is not going to abandon him. And why wouldn't he take credit for what is arguably the greatest accomplishment that occurred on his watch? I mean, maybe it's a realization now of what I just said, that he's in a very good position to take that nomination if he wants it. So why not go ahead and lay claim to it?
Well, you raise a point about his relationship with his base. And in many cases, he didn't lead the base. The base led him. It's one of the core reasons he was never able to make a big deal on immigration. A deal was there to be made, but he feared backlash from his base. And so I think on this particular case, what's noteworthy is that he's apparently set that fear aside, and he's decided to be more forceful about something on which his base feels very passionate, which is, this vaccine hesitancy or anti-vaccination altogether. So it's noteworthy that he is standing up to them and trying to lead them. Now, the question is, will it cause anybody to change their behavior? I've always been skeptical that people who don't want the vaccine today are waiting for any politician to tell them what to do or to get medical advice from a politician. But it is a good thing that he's saying what he's saying, and he's not allowing himself to be led down a very, very negative road when it comes to this point she was making. Well, people took the vaccine, more people are dying. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's bunk. He knows it, and it was good that he stood up.
My view is he ought to be speaking more about this issue in the very manner that he did, and not another issue for which we're going to see an anniversary in the first week of January. Let me put on the screen something Karl Rove wrote in the Wall Street Journal that resonates with me. He said, still, Mr. Trump's political sway won't be measured only in primary victories, but also in how many of his favorites fare in general elections in swing states and competitive districts. Here's the key part. All these candidates face a critical choice. Should they focus on Mr. Trump's claims that the 2020 election was stolen to protect their endorsement, or should they make their race about providing a check on President Biden and risk incurring Trump's wrath? My point, Scott, is this. Trump ought to be talking all about, Operation Warp Speed and not relitigating the events of January 6th. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree with you. The Operation Warp Speed was his greatest achievement, one of the greatest achievements of any recent presidency, especially in the face of what we were looking at with the coronavirus, unprecedented crisis facing the country. His continued focus on January 6th is going to hurt him in the future, because if he does run for president again, there's going to be a reckoning. And the reckoning is this: will the American people entrust someone who, frankly, in my opinion, violated their oath of office on that particular day with the most awesome political power on the face of the earth once again? If he runs, he's going to be reckoned with that question. If he doesn't run, a Republican will be having to reckon with that question as well. I don't know that it will be as impactful in the midterms. I agree with Carl that you should focus on being a check on Biden, not being a conspiracy theorist about the election. Where the reckoning comes, though, is in 2024, when the race for the White House demands an answer. Will you act the way you acted on January 6th, or will you put that aside and admit you were wrong, it was wrong, and the election was fair?
You know, it's interesting there. He is touting the vaccine's efficacy and safety, but at the same time saying, but it's still your choice. I mean, still trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, Erica, for sure, former President Trump trying to thread the needle there. You know, this message that vaccines work is one that public health officials, scientists, the current administration had wished for months that the former president took. They wished he'd taken that position when he was the president, and when so many of these public were set. That's become a huge cultural divide, right? Right now, the former president is obviously trying to take advantage of the fact that those vaccines were made during his presidency. He's trying to position himself as someone who saved lives. He's trying to position the President Biden as being responsible for COVID deaths right now, but he's not acknowledging the role that he took for months in kind of downplaying the vaccine or downplaying the virus itself. The other thing that's going on is that research is showing increasingly a split. And what it's showing is that people who live in counties that voted for former President Trump are much more likely, like 2 to 3 times more likely to die from deaths related to COVID-19. And so there is both the former president sees a political opportunity to hurt the sitting president, but also to try to rehab his own image and reputation the way history or even the current kind of living history remembers his role or understands his role. And the truth is that in downplaying the vaccines and the virus for many, many months, he helped set many of the patterns that have led to this bifurcation now that's made it harder to put the pandemic under control.
Yeah, and perhaps one of the best examples of that we saw earlier this week when he said he was boosted and was booed by that crowd that was there to see him. What else is fascinating to me, too, is you have this new Axios poll out, which looks at whether people trust information from the federal government, and the drop in that number among unvaccinated individuals. There's clearly a connection there, Margaret.
It's very striking. Our survey found that among unvaccinated Americans, trust in the federal government dropped from 43% in the first half of the year to 20% in the second half of the year. And among white unvaccinated Americans, the drop was even lower, down to 15%. Some of that is because the pool of unvaccinated is more concentratedly against the vaccine, right? I mean, if you were unvaccinated in June, maybe you just weren't sure, but you finally did it. If you're unvaccinated now, you've made a conscientious choice. You are dug in, you are one of the hard resistors, but that trust level is so low. The other really, really interesting thing that we found in the survey is that these two groups of unvaccinated Americans, Republicans and Black Americans, behave very differently. Overwhelmingly, Black Americans who have decided not to take the vaccine are wearing masks, do take the science seriously, are very worried about the virus, are trying to social distance. This other group, Americans who identify as Republicans, much less likely to wear masks, much less likely to social distance, still much more likely to say they have returned to normal life. And that presents a real, real challenge for public health officials trying to get things under control in the age of Omicron.
Yeah, absolutely. And also circles back to what we were just talking about a minute ago, the interesting shift in tone from Donald Trump as we head into more elections. Margaret, always good to see you. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Thanks.